what is happening.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
I don't know what to do with my confusion. I don't know how I can vote on approving this, given that I still don't really understand where we are and why we're here.
Columbia City Councilwoman Pat Fowler, I don't know what to do with my confusion. Couple of big highlights at several different city council meetings in mid-Missouri Monday night. Buildings coming down in one town, or we're getting closer to that happening. And then a takeover at another city council meeting. My goodness. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, Brian Houseworth. There's Mr. John Marsh. My name is Branden Rathert. Phone number 874-9390. Let's start with the takeover. And I might be overselling this a little bit. Let me tell you about December Harmon. December Harmon is somebody who Pat Fowler, city councilwoman in Columbia, wanted her to be on the Citizens Police Review Board. And it is a crock of now 13.
Really?
Did you get that redacted?
The show just started.
Sorry. Did you take the Sharpie and black that out?
I'm about to black out your name on the door.
Sorry. 2009, when the Citizens Police Review Board came into being, had the backing of a lot of folks, and ideally it's including Police Officers Association in Columbia. That was 2009. The Citizens Police Review Board, it's a conduit between the public and police. If public has a complaint, they feel like it's not handled properly, it goes through the Citizens Police Review Board. And by the way, the number of investigations and complaints they handle, basically zero. Really, there's nothing doing there.
Must be nice.
Right? And as what has happened to this Citizens Police Review Board is basically it's become let's get the cops, because they've put on people like December Harmon and people like Pat Fowler. You talk about a progressive board in the city of Columbia with the city council. Pat Fowler, woman who loves to hear herself talk. And I've evolved a little bit thanks to my friend Stephanie Bell. This woman loves to hear herself talk. My goodness.
Me?
No.
Yeah, the way you worded that was not great.
Sorry.
But
Phrasing.
But about my comment about meetings, and I would say it's as a citizen, it stinks when you show up to a meeting and spend your time and it appears that all the conversations happen behind closed doors and there's just a rubber stamp on something. So it is nice when sometimes you are kind of let into people's thinking and decision making. So I like to hear some discussion. Now, I know last meeting was a record? Or we've had some record city council meetings.
5.5 hours.
Was it 5.5 last night?
Something like
How
that.
many people were there?
Oh, last night I think 4 hours, 57 minutes.
Oh, that's still brutal.
Marsh offhand, I can't find the stuff on the Jefferson City Council meeting. I don't know how long that was. Any idea, Marsh? Yeah, I don't think it was that. There you go. That's a safe bet. And Pat Fowler, the woman likes to hear herself talk, not because, in my opinion, not because she's trying to get stuff done, but because she likes to hear herself talk. She likes to feel important. And she's the one who's responsible for this December Harmon being on the Citizens Police Review Board, which is now the board has been suspended by the mayor of Columbia, Barbara Buffalo, who does a lot with the mayor, Carrie Turgeon, in Jeff City. Kudos to Barbara Buffalo for stopping this board, because all this, they're out to get the cops. And this December Harmon, who showed up last night to speak in last night's meeting wearing a hammer and sickle t-shirt. And some of the things she did last night, thank you for allowing me to be consistent when I talk about this person, because she's all about the attention, and we'll hear some of the audio throughout the morning. She talked about how great she is and how they're trying to find a replacement for her, but there's nobody as good as her. And then she just took over.
Pat's back is hurting, and we all know why. It's because she's been carrying city council for so long. Pat, I'm going to do you a favor. You're going to tag me out. I'm going to tag you out. You're going to tag me in. I'm going to give you a little bit of a break.
And then she...
That's not how elections work or elected officials.
So
you can't
nice
just tag
of her.
in. Yeah.
And she took over, and she stood up and spewed a bunch of nonsense.
Today.
Come on. Come on.
Wait a minute. How old are you? What is that?
Spewed a bunch of nonsense. Took over the meeting.
Poor Houseworth is in the splash zone over there.
I didn't get you, John, did I? So then she goes on. She talks a lot of nonsense. And then?
Councilwoman Pat, I yield Ward 1 back to you.
The entire ward. This woman thinks she's in charge.
Shouldn't, I like Mayor Buffalo, but shouldn't she kind of have been calling her out of order on that? I mean, I think that is, I think there's a certain decorum and respect of, your elected officials in the meeting process.
Yeah, and Barbara Buffalo, I think, is in a tough situation. And by the way, I was chatting with some folks. I was at the Welcome Home Rockbridge picnic yesterday, and some folks saying, Barbara Buffalo does a good job of running meetings. I don't know what you do there, because what happens? You have a white person stopping a black person from talking in a city. Racism. Don't want to hear the black woman talk. Barbara Buffalo in a no-win situation.
That's true, but to Stephanie's point, you can't have a member of the public, whoever it is. Basically, what she said is she was sitting on the council. That's what she
took
said.
over.
That's how I took it.
Hammer and sickle T-shirt. I'm in charge now.
Of course, and if she said it multiple times. I've never heard anyone do that before. I've never heard anyone do that. Maybe she was being facetious, but based on that audio, I don't think so. But that review board it's been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. The last time it really came up, and I know you focused on the fact that they've had a lot of infighting among the board members themselves, but there also about 2 months ago there was a proposal from the city manager and it wasn't the city manager, a proposal from people on the board. They wanted to go to a conference in Fort Worth that was going to cost $10,000 to do that. So it's just, it's
Mayor Buffalo.
Baffled by the comments there.
I'm guessing Buffalo's baffled too. Great headline for the Columbia Daily Tribune.
I wonder if it's one of those things where you say it as a joke, but if it came true, you really wouldn't be upset.
Hey, look what happened. Meanwhile, some folks excited about what happened in the Jefferson City Council meeting last night. Kind of like safety issues in some high-profile areas of town. But for bottom line, really the big thing, City Council last night, we're going to have to pay more money coming out of our pocketbook.
Well, for the water rates, I don't think that's the biggest thing. I know Layla focused on that on the story last night for TV. I get it, but actually the bigger story to me is the budget itself, passing a $500 million budget, new fire station, 12 new firefighters. That's huge in South Columbia, and a boost to the police department in terms of funding. Water rates important too. They are
going up.
Yeah, and we'll have audio with Layla. There is genuine confusion. Pat Fowler and a lot of the council confused on that as to how that's going to work. And we really don't have a good explanation because it involves Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. But bottom line, rates are going to go up for water.
So that's probably the most important thing to you this morning. You pay for water in the city of Columbia. You're going to have to take more money out of your already dwindling checking account since those tragic events of January the 20th, 2021. It's another thing going up. Anybody see gas prices this morning, Marsh? Whew.
So I commute through Jefferson City and Ashland on my way to Columbia, and Ashland and Deer Park had jumped up like 25 cents overnight. It's like $3.64.
Holy cow. So I've been seeing $3.39, $3.39, $3.39, and all of a sudden it's not $3.39 anymore, man.
Only in Ashland and Deer Park from what I saw on my drive-in. I don't know if anybody else saw anything different.
And here's the interesting thing. Just yesterday, several folks out making the rounds on the national news outlets regarding Biden's idiotic comments in that interview Sunday night on 60 Minutes. The economy is, it's not that bad. Things are okay.
It was 8.2 or 8.2 before. Well, guess what we are?
It only went up a little bit after it's already in a 40-year high. And it only went up a little bit in the latest month. That's not bad. CNBC talking specifically about gas prices. And I hope this is the right piece here.
Running at 8.3%. 40-year highs. It just...
Gas prices have come down phenomenally, Joe. I mean, you cannot deny that.
Gas prices have come down phenomenally. What are they doing nationwide? You can get on a AAA and you can see gas prices less than 24 hours after this Heather Boushey, who is a White House economic advisor, less than 24 hours. Gas prices have gone down drastically. They're back up. And by the way, they are still incredibly high compared to where we were prior to January 20th, 2021. So you see all these things affecting your pocketbook. Okay, water rates in Columbia going up. Gas in Jeff City and Ashland up this morning. Inflation, 40-year high. But it only went up just 0.1% in the latest month. Come on, man. What's the big deal? So all these things affecting your pocketbook.
Yeah, it's a big deal. If you compare, your budget and how much you're spending today versus what you were spending under President Trump, it's a stark contrast.
And then the other thing happening that could change the way your paycheck looks in the Capitol yesterday. Really nothing doing there yesterday either, Marsh. Just a bunch of chatting. Yeah. And I think the big thing really, there was the idea, hey, let's issue rebate checks. I think at one point we'd heard $500. That was several months ago. Somebody introduced, how about $325? I think that is now off the table. So still nothing doing there today.
I mean, I think from talking to folks, I think the overwhelming thing is that it's like much more subdued and people are pretty much in agreement that, Missourians should get relief, which, I mean, any sort of consensus in the Senate should be newsworthy at this point, I think. But yeah. So I think they're looking at, ratcheting down the actual income tax rate. And so I think we expect them to take action on the bill today in the Senate. And then I think the agriculture tax credits is coming over from the House.
All right. And I do want to highlight some more of how the people on the national TV outlets yesterday trying to sell or backtrack some of what Biden said in that interview Sunday night. Before we do that, John, big thing I think as it relates to some public safety along a couple of streets in Columbia covered in Jefferson City, I should say. Kind of some big stuff last night in the city council meeting. So that was one of the big things happening there. Other big thing happening this morning, gas prices. You can text us, 874-9390. 9 times out of 10, we respond, whether it's on air, we acknowledge your text, or we actually respond to your text. We got a big old giant cell phone in our studio. It's like 6 feet tall, 2 feet wide, and we punch the buttons. Yeah, it's like that. It's like something you'd see on The Price is Right. And we have to stand up and type in the letters and text you back. Natalie, 364 at the break time on Highway WW in between Columbia and Fulton. Jake, 364 at break time in Fulton as well.
So moral of the story, if you're driving and you see 330, you hit that up.
So be aware this morning. That's the big thing got to get in your way today. As you're getting up, you're getting gasoline here in mid-Missouri. It is expensive. All right, do want to get some of this audio. Biden trying to make the economy sound good. People on the national TV yesterday kind of, I think, trying to clean up some of what happened in that interview Sunday night on 60 Minutes. We got to get on to the daily DC rundown with Stephanie. What do you got for us this morning?
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri, featuring Branden Rathert.
There was a time in my life when I was angry, bitter, and deeply unhappy. I wanted to lash out at the whole fascist system, the greedy, heartless power structure that didn't care about me or the rest of society's innocent victims. A system that had robbed, beaten, and stolen from my ancestors. The whole corrupt edifice deserved to be brought down, reduced to rubble. I was a perfect recruit for Antifa, the left-wing group which claims to fight against fascism, and so I became a member. Now I was one of those who had the guts to fight against the fascists, who were exploiting disadvantaged people. I was ready at a moment's notice to slip on the black mask and march in what Antifa calls the Black Bloc, a cadre of other black-clad Antifa members to taunt police and destroy property. Antifa stands for anti-fascist, but that's purposely deceptive. For one thing, the very name is calibrated so that anyone who dares to criticize the group or its tactics can be labeled fascist. This allows Antifa to justify violence against all who dare stand up or speak out against them. A few groups boldly declare themselves Antifa, like Rose City Antifa in Portland, but most don't, preferring to avoid the negative publicity. That's part of Antifa's appeal and strength. It's hard to pin down. There is no identifiable leader. To be part of Antifa, you must adopt two basic principles. First, you have to have the mentality of an anti-fascist. And second, you must be willing to enforce that mentality. To adopt an anti-fascist mentality means to reject everything that is fascism. But that begs the question, what is fascism? While most Americans associate fascism with Nazi Germany or modern dictatorial states like Venezuela, China, and North Korea, to Antifa, fascism means Judeo-Christian values and capitalism. As an Antifa group said on its Twitter account in 2018, fight against fascism is only won when the capitalist system is smashed. And they mean smashed. Breaking windows, tearing down statues, throwing Molotov cocktails, looting and burning businesses, and harassing and physically assaulting people. We saw it all in the summer of 2020 in Portland, Seattle, Minneapolis, and other cities. Antifa is not solely responsible for all left-wing political violence. Not every attack by left-wing radicals is an Antifa attack. But Antifa exemplifies the worst of this dangerous ideology, which is becoming bolder and more prevalent in American society. Joining Antifa was the worst decision of my life. How did I get out of it? Like anyone who gets out of something bad, I encountered something good. The very system that I had sought to destroy. Friends, people who turned out to be my real friends, pointed me to challenging thinkers like Milton Friedman, Thomas Sowell, and Ben Shapiro, and eventually organizations like the Leadership Institute and PragerU. What they said just made sense and offered me a better way to live. Antifa and the radical left did not care about building a better society. They cared about control. They could only offer me more anger, bitterness, and unhappiness. I always expected to keep my past a secret, but as I saw cities around the country struggling against the rise of left-wing political violence, while left-wing and even liberal politicians said nothing, I knew I had to speak up. If people like me, who know what is really behind Antifa, don't, the left will obliterate what it means to be a free American. So here I am. And here's my message. Young people don't drift to the left because they believe the left is superior. Most do because they have never been exposed to anything else. Leftism has become what Andrew Breitbart once described as the default position. The American idea is more powerful than you think. It turned me around. It can turn others around too. The core of that idea, call it the American dream, is not about money. It's about freedom. That, ultimately, is the reason Antifa has to resort to violence. Because if conservatives are allowed to speak freely, they will peacefully convert more and more of Antifa supporters towards the values of liberty. And then Antifa will vanish like the nightmare it is. I'm Gabriel Nadales, the student rights advocate for the Leadership Institute and author of Behind the Black Mask for Prager University.
And if we can't do this for the unborn, what good are we to the unborn? And I'll tell you this as a pro-life politician. If you don't stand with the unborn, the pro-life voter is not going to stand with you.
All right, Lindsey Graham on Fox. So yesterday, a lot of folks from the White House trying to shore up President's failed interview on CBS the other night. Lindsey Graham trying to shore up his whatever he did last week regarding abortion. Just a mess. That's getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
Well, and Democrats are falling over themselves to talk about abortion. Before the midterms, they've already invested $124 million in advertising. That's 20 times more than they did on that issue in 2018. Meanwhile, it's also a larger amount than Republicans have invested in economy, crime, and immigration combined. So we're going to be hearing a lot about abortion.
That's the big thing. And I'll tell you, polls, for what they are worth, they have been changing since the Dobbs decision earlier this summer. And polls, again, for what they are worth, have consistently shown for a lot of years the majority of Americans okay with some kind of abortion. Poll numbers for Schmidt, by the way, for what they're worth. We have some poll numbers regarding that Schmidt-Valentine race. I think we'll do that at 7:35.
All right. Well, Manchin finally might get penalized for backing Biden on his big climate and tax bill. Manchin, I guess, got promised with this government shutdown bill some sort of, he wanted changes to the permitting process for construction projects in fossil fuel renewable energy space. And apparently that was kind of promised to him. And now Republicans are like, no. You were supposed to hold out on that other thing, and you did us wrong. And we're not going to give you any favors here, sir. And so that is currently playing out in D.C.
I think instead of doing circus music, we need to start doing like soap opera music for some of this stuff.
Right. Meanwhile, Kamala is traipsing all over, I guess, South Carolina. Of course, that's one of the first states in the presidential that votes in the presidential race. And of course, with Joe's comment on 60 Minutes that he's not sure if he's going to run, she's like, oh no, maybe I need to get busy here. And so anyway, she is visiting two HBCUs in South Carolina, giving some, I think she's giving a convocation and just holding a focus group. So,
and South Carolina, about 1,900 miles from the Mexico border, that she is supposed to be fixing and in charge of. Coming up about 5 minutes from now, Christopher Arps, chrisarps.com. He is going to be hanging out with us, talking about now there's ways to track suspicious gun sales and a very interesting political drama unfolding in the state of Missouri.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always know what's going on. I don't think the president knows how everybody is living right now, so I think the people are fair enough.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? He's, it's similar to WWF as a child growing up, and they just played these sides where it was all scripted and manipulated by the people behind the curtain, dictating the outcomes of who's going to be champion.
Is the Democratic Party leaning more to the left? No, the Democratic Party is actually cultural Marxist party.
Change them. They've gone over the top.
It's the Democratic Party leaning more to the left, in my opinion. I believe all politicians are basically taking money. They'll lean whatever way they can to get money put in their pocket.
Go on, take the money and run. 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 Billy Mack is a detective down in Texas. You know he knows just exactly what the facts is. He ain't gonna let those two escape justice.
My favorite news subject to talk about is politics with history mixed together.
Chris. Hi, I'm Becky Arps, and I am so excited that you get to experience a bit of the thoughts I hear every single day. Enjoy.
Chris. Thank goodness we only have to deal with him every single week. Much better than every single day. But he's a smart dude. I wish we could have him on more than once a week. Chris Arps' website, chrisarps.com. You see him on Newsmax TV all the time. And since his time here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, time we've been hanging out, somebody in St. Louis said, dude, you're pretty good at this. Like, you should get your own radio show. Guess what? He's got his own radio show in St. Louis. I'm not saying it's because... Not saying it's because of. I'm just pointing out facts.
Maybe it's in spite of.
Cheerio, jolly fellows. How are you?
Hey,
that's pretty good.
We've got to hurry up because we've got
good?
we've got more people in the queue here on the phone.
Hannah dared me to speak with my English accent since Stephanie's been over at the Queen's funeral yesterday, I think.
Did you seriously?
Did you attend?
I did not. I was home on this weekend, so I missed it, unfortunately.
I thought you had your private invitation. I thought you were there.
Man, I'll tell you what, Chris, we got news Thursday morning that the Queen had died.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie was out. I mean, she was gone. Friday she wasn't here, gone all. I mean, it was like that quick, dude. And those two are facts, actually. I'm not saying it's because of.
I had to make it there. You know me, I'm a big royal watcher.
It's just the way it worked out. One of the things they're great, kind of this political drama, I feel like, unfolding in Missouri. I want to get to that. But first, let's start with what's going on in Jefferson City, because these are some things that when we start looking at our pay stubs, however this law ends up, whatever it is, tax cuts going into effect, we're going to look at our pay stubs and they're going to be looking different. So this is impactful stuff. Jefferson City, what's your take regarding tax cuts and what's been going on there in the special session?
Look, I think Missouri definitely needs a tax cut. If you look at all of the states that are surrounding us, they have lower personal income tax rates, except for Illinois, of course. There seems to be a proposal to give people $325 checks along with a tax cut. The check idea doesn't seem to be going too well with the governor, but he is in favor of a tax cutting the rate, which I don't understand. Look, we've got probably $20 billion more than we had last year because of all the COVID relief funds, and we're sitting on a massive budget. And, I don't know all the details probably, but I don't see why we can't reduce the rate and give every Missourian taxpayer a $325 check.
Give us our money back, in effect. I mean, people say, it's coming from ARPA funds. That's not yeah, it is your money. And I wish the city of Columbia, man, they're taking all the ARPA money they can and they're throwing it at a homeless shelter, throwing at homeless stuff. Homeless people don't want to live in a shelter. These people just don't get it. And I say, why don't you, city of Columbia, give that money back to us via some kind of sales tax cut or something?
Brandon, we got $100 million here in St. Louis from the Graham settlement. Mm-hmm. We've got $100 million from ARPA, COVID funds, and we haven't even spent them yet here in St. Louis. They're still trying to decide what to do with the money.
Jeez, what a mess. Christopher Arps, chrisarps.com. Check out his website, man. The dude, Becky, his wife, updates it is Chris Arps stuff. I mean, it is true to Chris Arps's character and all that good stuff. It is a great website. He's joining us this morning here
What about my character, huh?
Your character, your politics. It's all good. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri, by the way. There's Stephanie Powell.
Good morning.
Mr. Marsh is here.
Hi.
There's producer Hannah.
What up?
My name is Branden Rathert.
Hannah's my favorite.
I know, right?
What?
Aw, thanks, Chris.
You know what? She's my daughter's favorite, too. My middle daughter said.
See?
Hannah's my very favorite.
And on the show, she's my favorite, too, actually. She's producer Hannah's my favorite character on the show, too.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
Right.
Hannah keeps the trains running on time. And that's a very difficult time with you, Brandon, I hear, making everything run on time.
Yeah, it's a struggle. It is. It is a struggle. I'm not going to lie.
But I'm working on it.
Uh-huh.
I'm working, as a matter of fact.
I've been doing this for over 3 years, and you've been working on it that long.
A little bit of improvement. What's hot with Hannah, Chris? Something we do every morning, 7:25-ish. Yesterday morning, I missed being, and so it's usually 7:28, whatever. It's a cool feature, by the way. You got to check it out. If you never heard What's Hot with Hannah, just kind of some fun stuff, 7:25-ish. Something you might, share with your friends at work while you're getting coffee, getting ready for the day. Just cool stuff like that. For years, the idea, 7:25. The reality, 7:28, because we're always running behind. But over the past couple of months, I've been making progress. Got it down to 7:27, 7:26.
Wow.
Yeah. Yesterday morning. Oh, I almost had it. I was this close.
But there was also a day last week where it was at 7:28. You're not real consistent.
No, but it's getting better. Continual improvement and ownership of my mistakes. So let me ask you this: the story in St. Louis. This is a crazy story. We might think, well, it's St. Louis, doesn't bother. But you got a couple of things. You've got a ghost candidate who wins a GOP nomination to become a county executive of St. Louis. Wins, nobody knows how. Then she decides to drop out. And then you have a guy who has run a couple of times as a Democrat all of a sudden saying, I've evolved. I'm a Republican. I'm going to run. So let's start with the gal who won the GOP nomination. Tell us about her.
All that we know about Catherine Penner is that she is an independent business consultant and that she sued her former employer because her former employer required masks at work, and she said that was satanic. That's pretty much all that we know about her.
But she ran a race and won, and she spent no money, right?
No money at all. And I think it is, look, Shamed Dogan, who's the state representative that was running for county executive, he's termed out, so he has plenty of votes on record. And Shamed's voting record is not as conservative as a lot of Republicans would like. He is sided too much with Democrats in a lot of people's minds. So I think activists who come out and vote in primary elections just weren't going to vote for Shamed because of his voting record. I think a very, very small part of it was racism. I think people saw the name Shamed or shamed and didn't, see a name like that before. And so they went with Catherine Penner because, that sounded like a normal name. But I think that's a very, very small part of it. I think the big reason that Shamed lost was because of his record in Jefferson City and because he basically overlooked his candidate and was running a general election campaign in the primary. Look, we all know John Danforth and how we question his Republican bona fides. He had an endorsement on his Facebook page from John Danforth. That's not going to get you a lot of points in a Republican primary.
It's like getting an endorsement from Liz Cheney nowadays. To get an endorsement from Danforth. I want to hear more of this story. And Shamed Dogan, by the way, over the years, as I understand it, still the lone black Republican in either chamber in Jefferson City.
That is correct. I actually worked with Shamed in Senator Jim Talent's office. We were co-workers together.
He's a good, solid dude. Marsh, did you see this text at 874-9390? Ronnie says, John Marsh is now my favorite. So that's who's in the running right now. The polls indicate right now, producer Hannah has a 3-1 lead for favorite member here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. 3-1 lead, according to polls for what they are worth.
Whose name's on the show again?
all our names.
Okay.
Well, let's do this. Can we take a break? I want to come back. So this Catherine Penner, this is a fascinating story. Catherine Penner, nobody knows who she is except she sued her workplace. They wanted her to wear a mask. It was satanic. Yeah. No money in this campaign. Somehow she flipping wins. Beats Shamed Dogan, but mostly you think it was a vote against Shamed.
It was a vote against Shamed.
This woman wins. And then what she does next blows me away. Can you hang out for a few minutes? I want to get the conclusion to this story, Chris.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Chris Arps here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9, The Eagle and News Radio.
And if we can't do this for the unborn, what good are we to the unborn? And I'll tell you this as a pro-life politician. If you don't stand with the unborn, the pro-life voter is not going to stand with you.
That's Lindsey Graham trying to clean up his mess from last week. Chris Arps, chrisarps.com. Hanging out with us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, John Marsh, Brian Houseworth. By the way, favorite characters on the show, polling for what polls are impromptu poll this morning. So we've got Steph's daughter is voting for Hannah, his favorite member of Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Chris is voting for Hannah, his favorite member of Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And then we've got Ronnie saying that it's John Marsh. So it's 2-1 polling for what it's worth. Lindsey Graham, let me ask you this because I want to finish up this story regarding Catherine Pinner in St. Louis. Crazy story. Lindsey Graham last week. Man, could have been one. It could have been our 700th home run, really. Joe Biden last week giving a speech. He's massaging how good of a job he's done with the economy. We played the audio, CNN carrying that speech live, having to break away from that speech to say, hey, we just got the new numbers in. And the economy's bad. It went up. Home run moment. And then Lindsey Graham and proposing this abortion move. How did that strike you, Chris?
It struck me as ill-timed, ill-conceived. I understood what Lindsey was doing. Republicans across the country are losing right now on the abortion issue, and we really haven't had a good response to it. And so I think with his legislation, he wanted Republicans to be on the offensive instead of on the defensive. I think it was just bad timing. And there's certain aspects of it that I just don't necessarily agree with. One of the things that he's using is the Commerce Clause for being able to regulate abortion nationally. And, as conservatives, we've seen the Commerce Clause be abused to enact all kinds of things. So that necessarily didn't sit with me very well.
All right, so let's. I just thought it was just, man. It's like scoring in your own goal. It's like like you're a former Mizzou tight end or something, right? and you catch the ball and you run into Nebraska's and you run into the other teams and you run into the other team's end zone or something. You run. That's what it was like, what Lindsey did. All right, back to this. So we've got, I think, this phenomenal story that's been unfolding right here in Missouri. St. Louis County executive race, unknown. Susan employer making me wear a mask. That's satanic. She wins and then decides to run for county executive. Largest or second largest county, I think, in Missouri. And then wins, no money, nobody knows who she is. She wins the GOP nomination and then drops out.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so why did she drop out?
She dropped out because first she had two meetings in one day. She met with the young Republicans, and they started asking her a bunch of questions about her campaign, and she really didn't have any answers. And she I think, realized that, hey, this is going to be a little tougher than I thought. I have to actually answer questions. And then later on that day, she had a meeting with the Republican St. Louis County Central Committee, and they asked her tough questions as well, like, hey, what is your campaign plan? And she said that was a secret. And she just decided that
a secret means she doesn't have one. It means she doesn't have one, right?
Yeah, she said that was her campaign plan was a secret, even though these are people that are on your side and want to help you. And I think she just realized that, hey, this is going to be more of this going for the next few weeks, and I'm not cut out for this. And so she dropped out.
Another vote. Here's his vote for Stephanie. I like to listen to Stephanie Bell show every morning. That's off the text 8 steps. So Hannah still in the lead. 2 votes for Hannah in our
Stephanie Bell show. Wow.
Yeah. In our impromptu poll, Hannah leads to Marsh, Stephanie Bell. Currently the Shamed Dogan and the Catherine Pinner of this race here on Wake Up in Missouri. So then they bring forward in the final 2 minutes here. So then here's the other thing that I think is really interesting. So now the GOP nominee for the county executive is a lifelong Democrat.
He is a lifelong Democrat, and he's run a couple of times for county executive. He barely lost in the primary to the former county executive, Steve Stanger. The big knock on Mark Mantovani, and that is his name among Democrats, is that he's a Republican. He's got a business background. He successfully has owned a couple of businesses and been very successful. What I love about this is because we're in a hyper-partisan environment right now, and you would think a Democrat being on the Republican ticket that a lot of Republicans, especially MAGA Republicans, would be up in arms, but they're not, Brandon. Sam Page is so bad that people are willing to accept Mark Mantovani to run against the county executive as a Republican because they want to get him out of there.
Well, and
I think people know that he's not a super left-wing progressive.
Well, and you said the reason why the original lady got elected was because it was a vote against Shamed Dogan. Do you think Mantovani could get elected by just folks voting against Page, not really supporting him, but just not? It's kind of an anybody but Sam Page vote.
I do. I mean, if you look at this, Mark Mantovani is already going to start with like 40% of the vote. I think there are a lot of Democrats that are disaffected and aren't in favor of Sam Page, especially African Americans. If he can get a slice of African Americans, he's going to get 40% just from the Republican vote. And if he can add to that, he could win. He really does have a chance to win this.
All right, but let me ask you this, and we're running out of time.
And he can self-fund because he's a millionaire. Sorry, I got to get that in there.
That helps.
So as we wind down here, like 30 seconds, I think the more interesting thing, though, is, man, this game of politics, what people will do. Lifelong Democrat. Now, all of a sudden, because I want the power and fame, now I'm a Republican. Am I off on that,
He's kind of
Chris?
our savior, Brandon, though.
Okay. So it benefits
That's how we're
us.
looking at it.
It's benefiting us, so it's not that big of a deal. Chris, we'll see you in Jefferson City this weekend, man. We appreciate you. Jefferson City Councilman Ron Fitzwater joins us 7:10. Some big things happening in the Jefferson City Council meeting last night.
I don't think you'll hear any White House economist or policy analyst saying Americans should feel good about inflation.
Jared Bernstein on Fox less than 24 hours ago. Nobody from the White House, no economic advisor from the White House is going to try to sit here and tell you to feel good about the economy. Right about that time that Jared Bernstein, who's a White House economic advisor, was on Fox telling that story, Heather Boushey, another White House economic advisor, was on CNBC telling this story.
Gas prices have come down phenomenally, Joe. I mean, you cannot deny that. That is
phenomenally.
Phenomenally. And this morning, not so much. My goodness, look at what's happening here in mid-Missouri this morning.
Yeah, on my commute in to work this morning, gas in Ashland had jumped to like 25 cents overnight from like $3.39 to $3.64 this morning.
Barb text 874-9390. She is fact-checking Hannah, and Hannah is correct, according to Barb. We got folks from, let's see, gas at the Quick Trip at the interchange, 63.70. Terry says $3.39. Gas by Missouri River Tire, $3.34. Break time on WW, $3.64 in Fulton. Is it just one gas station company, I wonder, that's the prices have went up? Maybe there's something, because we don't know. Stephanie and I have been in here trying to research what happened, because we're on the AAA website looking at gas prices there.
I don't know, but I do know the last time there was a big spike recently, there was one gas station in Ashland that stayed for like one extra day at the lower price, and they were doing really well.
So that's getting in your way today. Gas price apparently has boomed overnight in some places, so keep us posted on that via text. 874-9390, 874-9390. So, John, did you happen to pay attention to any gas prices on your way in this morning? All right.
Which, it just kills me that they do 9/10 of a cent. Like, just round it up. Good Lord.
Or round it down. Why not 3.49 and 8/10? Give a brother a break, man. 1/10 of a cent. How much would that be? And what area were you seeing that in, John? Jefferson City proper, yeah. So, okay, so Jared Bernstein, nobody from the White House is trying to tell you to feel good about the economy. So he's wrong there. As he's telling that story, he's got another White House economic advisor on CNBC saying, no, the gas prices are way down. Gas prices still well over, at least $1.10, $1.50 prior to the tragic events of January the 20th of 2021. Jared Bernstein, nobody from the White House is trying to make you feel good about the economy. Less than 24 hours earlier on CBS, this guy was trying to make you feel good about the economy.
It was 8.2 or 8.2 before. But guess what we are? We're in a position where for the last several months it hasn't spiked. It has just it's been basically even.
You know, maybe Jared Bernstein technically correct, because Jared Bernstein, he said no White House economic advisor. Joe Biden, technically not a White House economic advisor. So what the hell is Jared Bernstein talking about? Nobody from the White House is trying to make you feel good about the economy. Less than 24 hours prior to that, Joe Biden is on national TV. Oh, inflation's it only went up 0.1% at an already 40-year high. Come on, man. It's not that bad. And I hope, maybe especially some of our younger listeners, newer listeners to Wake Up Mid-Missouri here on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS 950. I hope those people that voted for Biden. And listen, we don't need to get into arguments. I think we can change minds with facts. Just simply with facts.
That's assuming you're dealing with a reasonable person.
Welcome into the show. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Mr. Brian Houseworth is here.
It's good to see you. Good morning.
Producer Hannah's joining us on the show.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. Something we can do for you, 874-9390. And I don't know how this popped up, but all of a sudden we're doing an impromptu poll. Favorite member of Chris Arps, when he was on the show, said producer Hannah is his favorite member of the show. And I said, yeah, Hannah is my favorite member of the show, too. Stephanie's daughter voted for Hannah. Ronnie is voting for John at 874. But I could make a case here, John, that any of y'all are my favorite members here of the show.
Suck up.
Right, but no, but I'd be.
Just wait till we get to that roast.
Stephanie, how much was I falling over myself this morning when you came in? I just kept, even though it's just day 2 that you're back, I'm just like, man, I'm so glad you're back. I'm so glad you're back. What?
I do the same thing when you leave.
Is that accurate,
and
though?
come back. Yes,
I
it
was
was
just like,
yeah.
man. Brian Houseworth, how many times have I said, dude, your knowledge, your institutional knowledge of what's happening in Jefferson City, how many times have I just said, wow?
Many times, and I'm very grateful. And we enjoy it. We have a lot of fun with it, too.
Marsh, while you and I are enjoying tea and crumpets every afternoon at the balcony there at the landing restaurant there at the airport in Jefferson City, and we're looking out at the runway, admiring planes, since we're both Air Force brats, how many times have I said, man, I appreciate what you do? And Hannah, who I have known since she was in high school, listening to the show on her app.
Oh, we got good news from some texters. Apparently, right now, the price spike is only at the break time in Ashland. So there are still gas stations without the 25-cent change, but maybe not for long.
So maybe it's just one gas station right now. We'll try to figure out what's going on there. Big news last night, most impactful news last night. City council meeting in Columbia. You're going to start paying more on your water bill. And I wish every time like something goes up for a city utility or whatever it is, you should go to your boss today and say, hey, boss, City of Columbia raising my water rates basically $2 a month. Can I get a raise? $2 a month. Just to cover that. Meanwhile, Jefferson City, big thing happening. These buildings, some buildings along Capitol Boulevard and some other places they need to go.
It's one of the most beautiful streets in all of Missouri, I think. And, there's so much history there. My mom grew up on Capitol Avenue, and so it's sad what's happening.
I want to bring in Jefferson City Councilman Ron Fitzwater. Welcome into the show. I know it's been kind of a long night for you, City Council meeting, kind of a nice fundraiser for you. Sorry I missed you at that last night. So what's the deal with these? Did we make real progress regarding these buildings coming down? What's the story?
Well, good morning first. I appreciate you inviting me in. Good morning to the team. Yeah, we've made some progress. I mean, we have spent the last, I'd say, 9 months more aggressively on that project, and some of it came out of concerns that I had and some of the other members of Public Works that we just weren't seeing activity in that part of town. And it's a very critical corridor, especially as we look at the future Capitol complex renovations, what we're trying to do at the other end of Capitol Avenue at the prison site. We knew that we had to get more aggressive on Capitol Avenue and try to speed up that process. So we provided funding to hire a structural engineer to come in and take a look at the properties. As you can imagine, we got a lot of pushback from the community when we said these houses are very quickly getting in disrepair. They're going to need to be demoed if we don't stop the process, but we don't really know what's involved until we can get inside. So we hired a structural engineer. They're doing them in small groups of about 5 or 6 houses. We got the preliminary report on the first 5 houses last week. It wasn't on the agenda last night, but it'll be on the agenda in 2 meetings to look at what it's going to cost if someone from the outside wants to come in and purchase one of those houses, what they're looking at as far as rehabbing it and getting it back up to the city standards, or unfortunately, some of them are just going to have to be demolished.
How about this? What if we get in one of those reality TV shows, Make Over My Home, like from the Learning Channel, come in, maybe they'll do it for free, and then we get some good publicity for Mid-Missouri on national TV. What do you think about that idea?
I think we would look at any opportunity. As Stephanie knows, there's some beautiful homes there. We've just allowed them to rot away. The tornado did some damage to some of them. Fortunately, some of them, because of the way they're boarded up, it kept some of the wind and damage out. But we know that there have been people living in some of them. The police department and fire department is in there chasing people out. So there's a lot of debris, and there's just a lot of damage inside. not only from the human use, but also from animals that have broken into the houses, and then just the rain and the weather and the impact that it's had. So we're very concerned about what it looks like. But, yes, if somebody wants to come in and expend the dollars that it's going to take, we'd love to see some of those old houses.
We'll run that idea by Jack Deakins and Scott Spencer and Carrie Turgeon next. Hey, Brandon from Wake Up Mid-Missouri suggests we bring in a reality show and gets us some coverage. He'll do it for free.
Yeah, Councilman, I'm glad Councilman, I'm glad you brought up the tornado, because the tornado did do some extra damage down there, but those homes were already dilapidated before the tornado hit. I mean, I've walked that street with Senator Hawley up and down multiple times after the tornado, and I can tell you I saw raccoons, I saw rodents. I've been told there's snakes in some of those houses. And the thing that people that don't know where that area is, I mean, all these tourists that are coming into Jefferson City, they drive by, and that area has been an eyesore for more than a decade. I just don't understand the pushback that people were complaining when you said the structures were unsafe. They are unsafe.
Well, I put the resolution in to begin the process, and we got a lot of pushback at the first meeting. I think once individuals kind of understood what we were trying to do, that it wasn't just wholesale, we're going to go in and completely eliminate the entire block. But we had been in, staff specifically, I've been in a couple of them, and we have looked at it. Some of them are not salvageable. I mean, you can say, I'd love to see that house, but you're not going to put 3 and 4 times what the value of the house is to bring it back to life, and some of them can't be brought back to life anyways. But it's been a process to make sure that we go through. Some of them we had to get control of, so we had to get ownership, and we've been working with the Housing Authority and Mrs. Bisher to try to get control of the houses where we can begin the process. But like everything else in government, it's just a slow, tedious process, and you have to work through the steps. You can't work through the steps until you start.
Well, and I think part of Brian asked what the pushback was, but part of the pushback is Cole County and Jefferson City is a conservative community, and and takes private property rights seriously. And so for a long time, you had that tension of at what point do you act?
All right, got another minute here. I want to wrap this up and move forward. City Councilman Jefferson City Ron Fitzwater talking maybe some progress on tearing down some of these dilapidated homes further damaged by the tornadoes several years ago.
They take great pride, and I think that is important. As Stephanie indicated, we take pride in the historic homes, but there comes a time you have to allow us to do what we need to do. They become unsafe for fire and police that have to go in there and chase people out. They become unsafe if there is a fire in there, and we have to weigh the public safety side of it also. And so there's got to be a balance, but there comes a time when we just have to move, and that's what we're trying to do.
All right, so we've got 2 ideas on the table for you, City Councilman. Invite in a reality show. They'll pay for the rehabs and potentially any more serious structural engineering type of work that needs to be done, and we'll get good press for Mid-Missouri, or as one of our listeners suggests, tap the Meter Maid Fund and do that. Mr. Fitzwater, City Councilman Jeff City, thanks for your time on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great morning.
I've got another supply shortage that people are not going to be happy about.
Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
Oh, it's 7:27.
time for...
Darn.
Well, we had a lot of ideas for the good city councilman from Jeff City. We bring in a reality show to fix those houses that were already in bad shape, and then the tornado made it worse. Got the reality show coming in to fix them. Another listener says, use money from the meter maid fund. Maybe we get some ideas going for what the city council in Columbia could do, or any city council. Ashland meets tonight.
We do.
Big thing tonight in Ashland. Yeah. Okay. What's up with Hannah today?
So it's no secret that we've had like supply chain shortages really since the beginning of the COVID fiasco. We had, Pillsbury like refrigerated dough products that were in short supply, pepperonis for pizza. Let's not forget the most important one, which is toilet paper. Well, now there's another one, and it's officially gone too far.
Yeah, what are we looking for? Be on the lookout this morning. If you go to Schulte's or Mosier's, Walmart, whatever it is, be on the lookout for this item.
The U.S. could be facing beer shortages.
What?
I knew that'd get Stephanie.
What?
So basically, there's a big CO2 reserve that they use in Mississippi. It's like an old volcano that they consider extinct. And there's like some CO2 shortages, and beer companies are having a hard time getting hold of the carbon dioxide that they need to make a lot of beer.
So they're going to have to convert. So we went on a pub crawl when we were in London, and we learned we had cask ales, which is like the traditional English beer, and it's made in a different way. It's like non-pasteurized. But anyway, English beer is known for being flat and kind of like room temperature, and that's it. It doesn't have any carbonation. And I will say it's not particularly good with no carbonation.
I would imagine a beer with no carbonation, especially if it was a dark, bitter
Most
beer.
of them, yeah, were a little bit.
It'd be like a Jack and Coke that sat out overnight. But you don't care, so you drink it anyway. The soda's flat. It's warm. The ice is melted. It's a watered-down Jack and Coke day after.
It's better than that because it's got like still tastes like beer. And they were all different. It was neat to try them, but not something I would choose to drink. But if there's a shortage.
So get your beer while your getting's good. That's what's hot with Hannah today. Saw beer for dogs at the grocery store yesterday.
What?
I swear to God. Oh,
no.
The other thing blew me away. Yes, I saw this at a grocery store yesterday. We'll get into that maybe a few minutes from now.
Maybe.
Our debate's worthwhile anymore. And Schmidt polling numbers.
We are opening up a case with an investigation with regard to the suspected activities involving the 48 migrants from Venezuela that, as we understand it at this point, the facts of the case at this point.
That is the Bexar County Sheriff in Texas, Bexar County, Texas, San Antonio. Javier Salazar, he's a Democrat. They're investigating sending, which I don't understand this, we're sending illegal immigrants to a sanctuary city in Martha's Vineyard. We're investigating. People are sending illegal immigrants to sanctuary cities. We're investigating that. I don't understand it. And what was interesting is my phone blew up when all these text news alerts. Bexar County Sheriff's Department is investigating this, investigating. I am from CNN, New York Times, all of these. And if you get a chance, it's funny, play along. You can play along at home to this story. But you just search Bexar County, and that's spelled B-E-X-A-R. B-E-X-A-R. Just like Google, Bexar County Sheriff. And you'll see all these stories from CNN and the Dallas Morning News and the Washington Post and New York Times. And all this sheriff, he's investigating an investigation. He's launching this investigation. There was some other really big news surrounding this guy yesterday. I think we like to call it, what's the word I'm looking for? Starts with a C, ends with a T.
Carrot?
Context. Stop it. Context.
Yikes.
This is why you got to be watching the show on our YouTube channel. Mars, did you see the faces of these girls? The letter we're looking for here starts with the letter C, ends with the letter T. Context. There's context to what happened yesterday. And here's some little old show in the middle of Missouri going, wait a minute. Let's look some more of this. And they said he did a press conference. I'm not sure. This I cannot find the answer to because we're too busy tracking local gas prices this morning.
They're crazy.
But it seems to be just one set of gas stations where it's gone really high.
Right, but that gas station, people tend to follow.
Yeah.
So I think if you want to get gas and you see it in the 330s, get it.
So we're seeing folks from all over different places in Sedalia. Steve's in Sedalia this morning. We appreciate you listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS. He texts 874-9390. Says Casey's and break time went up about 3:59. Phillips 66 in Sedalia still at 3:33. Moberly, Scott, Murphy's at 3:35. Break time 3:64. So that's kind of what we're seeing all around Mid-Missouri this morning. So this little show, Wake Up Mid-Missouri, in the heart of Missouri. You know, ain't too fancy. We don't like to ruffle our own feathers. We're pretty comfortable here, I think, in Mid-Missouri. Looking more, and so I went to local news outlets in San Antonio, try to learn more about this sheriff who's launching an investigation. Two things. Number one, there's a lot of context to this story, and we're going to do this at 8:10, as long as I remember. I'm writing this down. 8:10.
Yeah, right.
I got a new toy to help me remember stuff because people get upset. I got this whiteboard. You know why I got this whiteboard? Because it was on sale.
I was going to say, did Stephanie buy you that?
No, I bought it for myself.
He's like a kid with new school supplies.
It looks like one of those little whiteboards that a middle schooler would put in their locker.
So 8:10, I'm writing it down. Bexar County, you got to hear this story because what is really happening here. Oh, and we'll look at crime numbers, by the way, in Bexar County, Texas. This guy's launching an investigation into a governor who, God, he committed the crime of sending illegal immigrants to a sanctuary city. He's investigating them. We'll look at crime numbers in Bexar County and more to the story because this guy had another big news story surrounding him yesterday, but the New York Times, CNN ain't covering that. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And to my left, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, though, she's actually over to the right, is Stephanie Bell.
And I'll wave. You like to make fun of me for waving. It's like the awkward, we've all decided we're going to wave at the end of Zooms when meetings are over, like, see you later. But you would never, do that in person.
That's like clapping at the end of a movie in the movie theater.
Or when the airplane lands,
Just
those
weird.
people are serial killers. but they are.
That escalated quickly.
But I think waving it. What are you say? Watch us on YouTube, and I wave because there are people watching currently. Hi, friends.
After a week in England, she didn't come back with the Queen wave. At least that's
no
pretty nice.
beauty queen stuff here.
Producer Hannah is joining us on the show.
Good morning.
We about an hour ago. We got into this impromptu poll. Chris Arps, who's here every Tuesday morning, 6:35. This guy knows Missouri politics. Cool website, chrisarps.com. He said, Hannah comes on. Hannah's my favorite member of Wake Up Mid-Missouri, and I concurred. I said, yeah, Hannah's my favorite too. Well, we've got a couple of votes for Stephanie off the text. Ronnie has voted for Marsh.
I got another vote that you forgot to count.
Oh yeah.
Uh-oh.
It was her mom.
Oh.
Hey, it counts.
Her mom texted in, Hannah's my favorite.
It counts.
So Hannah's got like 5 votes for what polls are worth. Hannah's got 5 votes.
There might be some slight bias in this poll.
Marsh has 1. Houseworth, I think, has a couple. My dad, he texted. Oh, God.
Those came in overnight.
All of a sudden, which, incidentally, as we get into some poll numbers here, that's how poll numbers work sometimes. Or, as a matter of fact, we were doing this for a little bit on our websites, and we quit doing it because so-and-so they would see the poll, and then this candidate, and it was happening a lot in the 4th District Congressional race, the one with Mark Alford, who's, by the way, he's going to be joining us in studio here Thursday morning. But then in that race, somebody would vote, Mark Alford would lead, and then other folks, and then this guy. It was just crazy, so we kind of got away from it. Polling shows, and here's my big thing. I'm wondering about this because here's my big concern. Polling on a national level, I was one of those all on board, huge red wave coming in November. Then the Dobbs decision came down. And polling, for what it's worth, since then has shown maybe it's not going to be quite the big red wave that we had thought it was going to be. And I've heard a lot of different arguments, and I think all of them have some validity to them regarding, well, polls, they don't mean this and they do mean that. Here's who's answering polls. But then I see this poll for Eric Schmidt. Shows he would easily beat Trudy Bush Valentine.
He would stomp her.
Yeah. But I believe that poll wholeheartedly. I have no doubts about that poll. The polls that show there's going to be that maybe there's not going to be a big red tidal wave, I don't trust those. But the one that shows my guy, Eric Schmidt, is going to beat Trudy Bush Valentine, I have complete faith in that.
I mean, I think it makes the candidate still makes a difference. It really does. And I think in a lot of circumstances, the Democrats spent money trying to get, a candidate that they thought was weaker. They got that candidate, and we put those races at stake. In some of our states, we did not get the best candidate in the primary, I believe. And that is putting us in quite the predicament. And I think also putting Trump in quite the predicament, because in some of those cases, the not so great candidate was the Trump candidate. And luckily in Missouri, we did the right thing, and we got a very strong candidate. And so I think the polling is reflecting that. But I do think that the polling in other states where it says, hey, we might have a problem here, I believe those as well.
Regarding like the red wave?
Yeah.
Yeah. You think we have a problem with the polling, and the problem with the Republican Party is going to have a problem?
I think the Republican Party could have a problem in a couple of states, and I think it's our own fault. I don't, and I don't necessarily. I disagree with you that I don't think necessarily it's due to the Dobbs decision. I think it's more due to the candidate that we picked.
And we're probably both right.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure I'm right.
The way she said maybe leads me to believe she doesn't believe that.
I just think I'm more right than you are, but that's fine.
Well, and it could be. I'm just looking at facts, and facts are that polling since the Dobbs decision has swung way bad the other way. The other fact I'm looking at, polling for years, even prior to the Dobbs decision, polls for years have shown the majority of Americans are okay with some type of abortion. So those are the facts that I'm looking at. But I hope you're right when we talk about the candidates, Sarah Palin, for example, in Alaska. That one I'm not picking, but... And here's the other thing. They're all about these debates. Eric Schmidt wasn't at a debate this weekend was it the Missouri Press Club? I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was Valentine was there. Schmidt wasn't there. You know who I'd really like to talk to in some of these races are these Libertarian and Green Party candidates who are running, just to find it, because I'm curious. You know you're not going to win as a libertarian candidate. You know you're not.
Do they all know that they're not going to win?
That's a good point, Hannah. Maybe they don't know. And not to say there's a lot of value in the libertarian platform, but they're not going to win. I wish that weren't true.
But both candidates are kind of puffing their chests out here, right? Because one of them's like, well, you're too scared to show up and debate me. And the other one's like, I don't have, I don't bother with having to debate you. Like, that's not worth my time. And so I think both candidates get headlines, although, mainstream media, we certainly saw more headlines of Eric Schmidt was a no-show.
Yeah. And it's like, but we're seeing Fetterman and Oz in Pennsylvania, Herschel Walker in Georgia getting ready to do a debate. And Herschel Walker says, I'm going to lose. I'm not that smart of a guy. My policy stuff is solid, but I'm not a good debater.
Well, has a debate ever changed your mind?
That's what I'm wondering. Marsh, have you ever watched a debate, thought, I was going to vote for Eric Schmidt, but after Trudy's solid performance, I'm voting for Trudy Bush Valentine. Have you ever done that? Yeah. I just don't know. Hannah, do you think a debate is in a general, listen, I know, and for example, you can use Schmidt and Valentine, you can use Fetterman and Oz in Pennsylvania, whatever national race you're paying attention to. A debate is not going to change my mind on who I'm voting for.
I actually think debates are more helpful before the general election season. So more so in the primaries when you have a bunch of candidates competing for one spot within the party. I think debates are way more helpful then to kind of figure out which candidate you like. Because by the time you get to the general election, you probably know who you're going to vote for.
Oh, definitely. I was glued in on the last, in the original presidential debates on the Republican side watching. I mean, I forget how many candidates we even had. But for so many of them, they were virtually unknown to me. And I paid very close attention to the primary debates. I think you're right, Hannah.
And where were we in February? Statewide Lincoln Days in St. Louis. What was probably the marquee event besides Hawley walking in saying, I support Hartzler, which his endorsement meant nothing in that race, apparently.
That wasn't really a debate. But yes, they had a Senate forum. Yeah, and it was interesting because the candidates did try to distinguish themselves. Yeah. And before we had kind of heard mainly the same things. And I thought it was good.
And that's the other thing we can get into, the value of debates in general. I don't know if they've ever changed. Maybe for some independents and a lot of politically unhoused voters right now, maybe a debate does make a difference. But I just, in these generals, everybody wanting to debate, I don't know that it makes a difference. I don't know if it changes anything. And endorsements, I'll still go back to some endorsements. Now, I said Trump endorsements don't matter, and I was wrong in the primaries. Trump endorsements have mattered in the primaries. Are they going to win on a national level? Will those Trump endorsements matter on a national level? I would bet a week's worth of Hannah's salary. They won't. Endorsements, the Hawley endorsement.
Seriously.
Check this out.
Prompting the FDA to issue a serious warning about kids misusing over-the-counter drugs, including...
Would you just go to break?
We should be clear that this is, as it stated, a humanitarian crisis created by human hands, and it is an all hands on deck moment.
So that is the mayor of New York. His name is Eric Adams. He's on with Jake Tapper, and he's talking about illegal immigration, but he's not saying what I think he thinks he's saying. He's trying to say what the governors have done here by sending illegal immigrants to my sanctuary city. By the way, nobody should be offended. Nobody should be offended by illegal immigrants being sent to sanctuary cities. Eric Adams is saying, this is a human-created crisis and all. Everything he said, yep, and it applies to what's happening to your fellow Americans, Mr. Adams. It applies to what's happening to your fellow Americans in Texas, New York, New Mexico, and Arizona. Coming up, all right, so I want to do, here's the latest thing kids apparently are doing. But
according to you or according to the kids?
According to CNN and the TikTok, I guess, is what kids.
There are so many men on TikTok. Oh my gosh.
James, welcome to the show. Are you on TikTok?
No.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You were talking about polls.
Polls, yes, we're listening. What's
I
up?
worked for Ronald Reagan's national campaign in 1980, and I said in May of that year of 1980 would be a landslide. So anyway, right after Labor Day in 1980, the national media had Jimmy Carter up by, I think, 2 to 3 points. So we all know how that played out. It was a landslide in November. So I don't pay much attention to polls. Are they always wrong? No, but I think polls are very, very biased against the Republican Party. They always have been, and I think they always will be.
James, and thank you for that insight. That's awesome, man. Worked for Reagan back in the 80s, and we don't even need to go back to 1980. We can go back to 2016. And I keep bringing this up because I won an outstanding bet with Gary Nolan, who hosts the Gary Nolan Show here weekdays at 9. Every single poll showed Trump was going to lose. I said, Gary, Trump is going to win. And Gary danced on video. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of Gary Nolan. But he
I've seen pictures of him.
James, thank you for being a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning here on News Radio 104.5 KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle. All right, so apparently this is the latest, one of the latest things on the TikTok.
New social media trend that is prompting the FDA to issue a serious warning about kids misusing over-the-counter drugs, including cooking chicken in NyQuil.
Oh, gross.
Come on, these things.
I have not seen that anywhere on TikTok.
Me neither.
Yeah, I'm not on there, but I think, like with the whole Tide Pod thing, what did a bunch of people, these dumb kids are eating Tide Pods. I think there were a confirmed 12 videos on social media, I think. So, yeah, it was happening, but not to the extent that a lot of people would have you believe. So, yeah, so that stuff, yeah. But now you marinate chicken in NyQuil and then cook it.
Oh, that sounds disgusting.
I Googled it, and the first question is NyQuil chicken safe to eat?
Hey, coming up about that Bexar County Sheriff in Texas who's investigating Governor Ron DeSantis. There's context there.
They're online right now, trying to find someone cuter than me, with a good job, someone better than me. They will never find anyone better than me.
Last night's city council meeting.
Is she talking to an ex-boyfriend? I'm cuter, got a good job. You can't find anyone better than me.
And gosh darn it, Marsh, people like me. Last night, so city council meetings, couple of towns across mid-Missouri. City council meeting tonight. As a matter of fact, Stephanie Bell, who's an older woman in the city of Ash Vegas, on the agenda.
You're the first person I've ever heard say that, actually.
Ashland, Missouri, Ash Vegas. Tonight, they're meeting last night. City council in Jefferson City and in Columbia met. Big story, really the big story in Columbia. I think the most impactful story. So there's the budget, but the other bigger thing in my mind is, your pocketbook, your wallet, your bank account is in effect is taking another hit.
Yeah, it is. There's no doubt about it. I do think the budget itself is huge because we're going to get a new fire station and 12 new firefighters. That's big. But your point is so well taken, Brandon, in that the water rates are going up, and I've read the council report on that several times. It's difficult to really get a good grasp on how much you're going to go up. It's just hard to tell, and I've read that report multiple times. Even Pat Fowler, who read it just like I did, I feel the same way. She said she was confused because it's hard to tell. Bottom line, it's going up. Looks like maybe $2 a month, but I'm a little unclear on that. Obviously, it will have to do with how much people, how much water people use, but it will go up. And maybe the biggest thing we learned, Mr. Liu said last night at the meeting, that if we did not take action, it would be in the red in 2 years. That's the first I've heard of that. So that was something that was somewhat new, but they did vote on that, and that's something that we'll continue to keep an eye on.
And I wish every time, whatever it is, a utility bill goes up, whoever jacks up your interest rate, anytime something happens, every time one of your bills goes up, wouldn't it be cool if you just go to work and say, hey, boss, City of Columbia raised my water rates $2 a month, so I'd like to, at the very least, have a $2 a month raise. Hey, boss, gas prices across mid-Missouri at mostly, it seems one gas station this morning seems to be break time, which usually when it's break time, then the rest follow. I don't know. So. Yeah, and I don't know the inner workings of how the oil industry works. I don't understand that, but typically you see break time gas prices go up. Everybody else's goes up. But you go into work, say, hey, boss, gas this morning in Lynn, it went up 20 cents, so it's going to cost me this much. Can I get a $3.18 per week raise to cover what Joe is doing to my? Can you do that for me, boss? Well, your boss can't do it either because they're getting screwed since January 20th, 2021.
But the bosses are trying, and
Yep.
bosses around mid-Missouri will tell you they're getting people in their office every day saying that same thing. Hey, boss, I need a raise because of these expenses. And in some instances, the bosses, and what's horrible is that prices are so high that that employee basically can say, hey, if you don't give me the raise, I'll just go over here. And then guess what? It gets passed on. It gets passed on to the consumer, ultimately. I know, we're supposed to be moving on. He's mad that you're trying to say that I'm...
It's about damn time.
Is this the live video feed?
Yes.
If you have never watched... Marsh, can you see this from where you're sitting, man? You got to check this out on our... Are you serious? Is everybody in on this?
Yeah, we've been getting texts. What is up with Brandon on the video feed? Totally oblivious. The only thing better is if we could turn you into like a cat or something.
I can zoom in really close.
So you go to YouTube channel, even if you just check in for apparently on our split screen stuff, you can see all the cast members on the show. You can see Stephanie Bell. Good morning, Steph.
Good morning.
You can see Mr. Brian Houseworth.
It's good to see you. Good morning.
You can see producer Hannah.
Hello.
We keep John Marsh locked in a closet because he's so busy hammering out news, doing journalism for 30 years here in mid-Missouri, so we give him his own little spot. You doing okay in the closet there, John? I know.
John keeps a close eye on the video feed, even though he's not in our room. He texted me almost immediately. said Branden looks like a little bat.
In front of the
So I'm upside down on this thing. It's making me dizzy, man. I feel like I'm on a roller coaster just watching
Well,
this
it didn't
thing.
bother you 20 minutes ago when I first did it.
Yeah, so this has been going on for 20 minutes?
Yeah. Steph took a really great behind-the-scenes picture of the monitor.
Full screen.
Full screen.
Wow.
Didn't notice.
Well, I was trying to hold up. I got a new toy, and I was trying to.
A mini whiteboard.
I was trying to. Oh, there we go. How about that? So I'm trying to do better because I say, hey, coming up at 8:10, we're going to talk about this Bexar County sheriff. He's making national news headlines because he says he's announcing an investigation into Ron DeSantis, which I don't understand. Hey, we sent illegal immigrants to a sanctuary city. Let's investigate. But there's and all the news, man, my phone blew up last night. Breaking news alerts, New York Times, CNN, all these. But there's a lot more to this story that we do need to hear. We want to do that. But to your point,
But first,
the
I had
economy.
I had to contradict you because you're saying you can't just walk into your boss's office and ask for a raise. And I think a lot of bosses around mid-Missouri are saying, well, people sure the heck are doing that every day. They're asking me for more money, and they're probably threatening, saying, hey, if you don't give me this raise, there's 100 other people out there who need employees and are paying a good wage. But ultimately, it gets passed on to the consumer. Right? Then we're paying more money. Then we all need more raises.
But I don't know if there's 100 people lined up to take the job after them either. This is a first yesterday, and I figured it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
I like to shop local, man. I'm at Schulte's, I'm at Mosier's, I'm at Walmart yesterday to buy colored paper. And I go through the chat. There is not one human cashier working.
Oh, no.
No, nope. I almost took a picture. I've not seen that. It was all. There were no.
Wow.
I've never seen that. And I don't know if they're going that way or if it was just a bad day. Everybody called in sick.
Must be a shortage because I've never seen that. I've heard you see those self-checkout lines in there, especially the older people. I hear them say many times they won't go into those lines because they feel like those are taking jobs away from humans.
Well, yesterday I was
That's
actually.
how they feel.
Yeah, I was in Target and they have like the return desks, and I had to wander around to find somebody with the red shirt because, again, there was a whole bunch of desks and nobody working, and they're like, wonder. And they're like, somebody should be over there, but I guess we'll find someone.
Blew me away. Hadn't seen that one yet. 874-9390. You know what's not going to be replaced? Live.
Lawyers.
I was gonna say, but you get points for that, man. That's pretty good. And local talk radio that talks about things that impact you, things that are happening locally. Jefferson City, and this is stuff. Listen, what's happening in Jefferson City in the next few days, it's going to change your paycheck, the way your paycheck looks. You'll be looking at your pay stub, and it will be different. Really no movement there yesterday, John, just a bunch of different proposals. We know for sure nobody's going to get a check cut specifically. We know that. Yeah. So coming up 8:35, some more things that happened from, and the big thing in the Jefferson City Council meeting, potentially progress on demolition of some of these rickety old homes that have been that way for a while. Tornado several years ago didn't help. Making national news headlines now. Bexar County Sheriff, his name is Javier Salazar. A press conference yesterday.
We are opening up a case with an investigation with regard to the suspected activities involving the 48 migrants from Venezuela that, as we understand it at this point, the facts of the case at this point, from what we can gather, for little more than a photo op, video op, and then they were unceremoniously stranded in Martha's Vineyard.
So he's launched, the sheriff in Bexar County, Texas, launching an investigation because somebody had the heart to send illegal immigrants to a sanctuary city. So, man, that's what the sheriff is doing there. So I got to looking at crime stats. You see any crime stats for Bexar County, Texas and San Antonio?
I got to guess.
They're not good, man. Bexar County is in the 27th percentile for safety, meaning 73% of the counties in America are safer than this county. But the guy's going after somebody because he did a very kind thing by sending illegal immigrants to a sanctuary city. And then this from the crime stats from the city of San Antonio, Bexar County, San Antonio Police Department. Assault, and we can look at numbers year to date. Assaults in Bexar County, where this dude, the sheriff, Javier Salazar, last year, numbers are up year to year, same month, month to month, up more than 2,000 assaults. Homicides have almost doubled. Where this dude is the sheriff from 2021 to 2022. That is Sheriff Javier Salazar. Homicides have doubled. And he is pulling a political, we're looking into this. Crime overall up. So that's crime in his county. But
he needs something else to focus the folks' attention on so they're not focused on the crime.
So here's the thing. You get all these national news outlets, New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, and my phone's just going crazy with all this stuff. And so I go to local. By the way, when you see a story on Fox News, CNN, whatever national news outlets you like to go to, search local news outlets on those stories. You'll always find more. One of the things we find, the sheriff, there is a move to remove the sheriff from office because for a lot of reasons, but mainly it was a high-profile, like a double murder suicide. And it's been going on. The case has been going on for several years. And he kind of reminds me of a local school district. Just won't communicate with those involved. No communication. And people are calling for him to resign. They're asking for state law enforcement agencies to get involved because this guy is just doing such a poor job. This is one of the family members who was involved in this family, had this horrible double murder suicide happen in their family. By the way, and it's in the same edition of like the San Antonio Express newspaper yesterday, front and center. Our sheriff is going after Ron DeSantis. And over to the right, oh yeah, people are calling for our sheriff to resign. This is a family member.
And I think that it would be very honorable of him to step up and say, hey, yes, we screwed up, but I just don't think he's the kind of person to do that. I think he's just going to try to keep everything covered up and try to keep making himself look good.
The sheriff. Wow. The attorney said that the sheriff had inflicted more pain on this family than anyone else other than whoever it was who killed their daughters.
So check that out. Front page, San Antonio, all the national news outlets. This guy, oh my gosh, thank God he's going after DeSantis. Don't forget about the story where they're calling for him to be removed from office, where the family's in tears because he won't even come Good morning, 8:26. Time for the Morning Bell business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
So you were talking about how you were at the Walmart yesterday and you didn't see a single soul, like a regular.
It was weird. No
checkout.
human cashiers. Usually at least two, not a one. It was eerie almost. It was kind of like
Robot world.
Yeah, it was. I tell you what it did when I was a kid back in the 70s. It was, robots going to take over the world one day. That'll never happen. I can't, it was weird.
I hate the self-checkout. Hate it. Hannah and I disagree on this point.
Yep.
But Wegmans, which is kind of like the Mosers or the Hy-Vee of like the East Coast, they actually ended their self-checkout app because there was too much stealing going on. And I feel like, it's just hard. Like if it's a small self-checkout, then you're trying to put your stuff in the bag and then it's like, which one have I scanned this? I don't want to overpay. Sometimes there's stuff on the bottom of my cart. It's just nice to talk to a person and put all of your stuff on the belt. I will say, like at Sam's Club where you have like the little scanner that you can move yourself and you don't have to take anything out of your cart. I like that. But again, I'm always wondering, did I scan that? Did I not scan that? How's this working? And so, I think for some things we just keep moving forward and other things there's like a pendulum and we swing back and forth. And I think right now we're in like super self-checkout mode, but I think people are going to get frustrated and I think stores are going to see losses like Wegmans and say, you know what, maybe having a person in this job isn't such a bad idea.
Story we highlighted a couple of weeks ago, the technology to do that costs way more. Well, we're not hiring as many cashiers. We're getting up there. The technology costs way more. The IT people to run those things cost way more. Loss through theft.
You can't buy lottery tickets or cigarettes or booze with a robot.
You know how upset Stephanie gets when she goes and she can't get a pack of Marlboro Reds, the checkout line, because it's not a human cashier?
Right? You have to wait for someone to come over.
Need a pint of Jack.
Check your ID.
Carton of Marlboro Reds, and give me 50 of them scratch-offs. That's not true. But it was bizarre. I don't know. Maybe I reacted, but it was just insane. And because I imagine, like you, we have that fear. Oh my God, did I not scan this? And then if you need to get something taken off your thing because you scanned it twice, then you got to wait for somebody and they come over and your lights flashing and people are all look at Stephanie, look at that attorney from Ellinger and Associates. Stephanie.
I got enough jobs. If you're going to make me scan, give me $1 off. If you gave me $1 off to go through the self-checkout and pay me to do it, I would do it.
You are 100%
Capitalism.
correct. And the other thing I'm worried, like I'm going to walk out, maybe I didn't pay for the milk, and there's going to be a mug shot because it's a screenshot of I'm walking out with a carton of milk and I forgot to scan. 5 minutes from now, we highlight a local school district gets some kudos, and this school district deserves those kudos.
I don't know what to do with my confusion. I don't know how I can vote on approving this, given that I still don't really understand where we are and why we're here.
Pat Fowler, city councilwoman in Columbia. So last night I got it. She's somebody that I regularly, I just call out for what I see. She just likes to hear herself talk. She likes sitting up on that dais. In my opinion, she's very self-important. These are all just my opinions. These are not facts, but all of her actions, everything she does. But I got to agree with the city councilwoman on this one relating to the water rates last night. If Brian Houseworth and John Marsh, between the two of them, did we figure, is it 70 years, John, between the two of you? 70 years, 60 years of journalism here in mid-Missouri. Now I'm looking at it, and Pat Fowler, who thinks she knows everything, can't understand this water rate increase table. Then maybe there is something to that. Last night's city council meeting, water rates going up. And then this was one of the most bizarre things I have ever seen in city government. December Harmon, her name's tossed around in the news a lot. She's all about the attention. She's on the Citizens Police Review Board. Citizens Police Review Board is suspended by Mayor Barbara Buffalo because people are resigning. They don't want to be a part of it. Review Board, it's supposed to basically be a conduit between the public and the police department, communications, and hey, if there's an issue, if there's an issue, you think you haven't been treated right by police, you can come to us, we deal with the police. You know how many investigations and all that stuff that's been happening? No, it doesn't happen. They have turned into, especially under the direction of December Harmon, again, these are my opinions, they're out to get the cops. And December Harmon, she shows up at meetings and she'll speak and then stop dramatically, make sure she's looking up at the cameras, puts on her shades in a city council meeting. So I get the impression, and I could be wrong, but my perception is my reality. My perception is she's all about herself. And then last night, it was a hostile takeover, man.
Pat's back is hurting, and we all know why. It's because she's been carrying city council for so long. Pat, I'm going to do you a favor. You're going to tag me out. I'm going to tag you out. You're going to tag me in. I'm going to give you a little bit of a break.
And so December Harmon tapped in, and she repped Pat Fowler's ward for the next 4 minutes. She was kind enough, at the very least, she did tap out when she was done talking about whatever it is that she was talking about. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert, joined by Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Brian Houseworth is here. There's producer Hannah.
What up?
My name is Branden Rathert. There's Mr. John Marsh.
Oh, boy.
By the way, a couple of hours ago, Chris Arps knows Missouri politics better than most people I know. He was here. He joins us every Tuesday. He said Hannah's his favorite member of Wake Up Mid-Missouri. People started voting. I said, yeah, Hannah's my favorite member of the show. Stephanie's daughter, favorite member of Wake Up Mid-Missouri?
Hannah.
Ronnie texted in, 874-9390, says it's Marsh. Another text from a listener, Amy, saying Hannah. And there's some context to Amy voting for Hannah.
No.
No?
Amy is Hannah's mom. Of course, Brandon's dad's favorite member is Gary Nolan.
You know who we haven't seen votes for? Brandon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, someone voted for Brandon.
Oh, come on, play along, Stephanie.
There's one vote.
Well, see, and it should be your favorite member besides Branden Rathert.
Come on.
Good Lord.
All right, let's move. Quick phone call. I want to get to an interesting story nationally yesterday and some other things happening here in mid-Missouri. Quick phone call, 874-9390. Megan, welcome to the show. What can we do for you?
Good morning, guys. I just wanted to call in. I was listening, and I had to tell you, Brandon, it was so good to see you last night at the charity picnic benefiting Welcome Home.
Oh, yeah. Welcome. And this is Megan with Welcome Home.
Yes, yes, sir. Megan Sievers. Yep.
Well, Megan, thank you for. How did you guys do last night?
It was just amazing. We had over 350 people there. We got to unveil our documentary. Had the best food and time, and I tell you, we were blown away by the support. Just coming out of the community like wildfire. It was just incredible.
Rockbridge Lions Club, man. It's, man, they do a great job every year. And the work that Welcome Home does for veterans here in mid-Missouri, we love what you guys do. Well, thanks for checking. It was a good time. Saw a lot of political candidates there last night, too. Megan, God bless you and all your crew for the work you do for our local veterans here in mid-Missouri.
Well, as busy as you are, Brandon, thanks for taking the time to come out. We really appreciated it.
Well, thank you. It's a great organization. John Martin, who's running for Chuck Basie's seat, state rep, he was there. There's pictures posted on our Facebook page. Dustin Stanton, Boone County Auditor.
And Connie Leopard was there.
Connie Leopard, who's running for County Commissioner, presiding commissioner. Jim Musgraves, who's running for Sarah Walsh's seat. They were there. Pretty cool event. What's this? So I'm looking and I realize that stories like this go, oh yeah, I'm not that cool, because I get these news updates on my phone. Adnan Syed, he's been released from prison. I'm like, oh my God, I'm trying to think. I should know this name because New York Times and Fox and everybody is sending me these news alerts, and I'm like, oh, he's featured in a podcast.
It was like the first super viral true crime podcast, and now it's like true crime podcasts are their own genre and their own thing. But Serial season 1 was
So
an
good.
international sensation. If you haven't listened to it, you should, because it's great. But anyway, they told the story of Adnan Syed, and they went episode by episode of all the facts, and they did their own investigation. It's just really good storytelling and fascinating. And ultimately, they kind of concluded, hey, this guy really shouldn't be in prison. It came to light, and actually yesterday he was released. And actually, it was the state's attorney for Baltimore that came in and said, "Look, we heard the podcast, we did our own investigation, basically, and yeah, this guy shouldn't be in prison. He's been in prison since 2000, so a long time for basically a high school murder of his ex-girlfriend." And he's finally out. And I think it's interesting because since then there's been some other podcasts, I think like the Murdaugh murders and another one in Australia of folks who took like a really old crime and said, hey, we think we know who did it. And people have actually been then prosecuted or charged, after these independent journalists have looked into the crime. I think this might be one of the first one where someone actually got out because of a podcast. But I was super invested in this. I still am. And so I was super excited when I saw the news alerts yesterday that he is being released finally.
So they're not saying the guy's innocent. They're just saying,
Correct.
hey, maybe we should do another trial here.
I don't know that they're going to do another trial. But yes, they did not say he's innocent. They just said that there's enough evidence that casts doubt on, the original conviction that he should be let out.
And here's so remember what was on Netflix, Making a Murderer,
right?
Which was incredible. So I don't fall for that kind of stuff. I don't fall for false information on the Facebook. If TikTok is telling me to cook my chicken in NyQuil, which is apparently the hottest, one of the latest things.
Well, you fell for CNN's headline saying that people cook chicken in NyQuil, and that it's like a widespread thing on TikTok.
So I don't fall for that stuff. The Making a Murderer thing I didn't fall for either. It was fascinating TV, but there's a lot. As a matter of fact, those two attorneys, they did a thing at the Missourian Theater in downtown Columbia several years ago. And I'm like, I didn't fall for, but a lot of people, oh my God, he's so innocent. Well, it was incredibly biased the way the whole story was presented in that case. And you leave out pertinent stuff and you're watching and you go, yeah, this kid is innocent, but there's a lot of stuff left out. But that's not the case with this story.
No, there were like cell phone tower records and lots of other records that basically showed he probably didn't do it. And so I don't want to give it all away, but because it is a very well done. But yeah, no, and I think it's an interesting issue for conservatives. We've seen a lot of movement toward criminal justice reform, and our governor has, I think, pardoned a lot of people. And I think you want to have faith in your justice system, but you also want some sort of repercussion if, evidence comes to light later that maybe that person shouldn't be imprisoned. And so I think it's an issue I think conservatives are talking about more and struggling with. And, especially when you get into things like death penalty. I mean, what if this guy was up for the death penalty and now we find out, he didn't commit the murder. And so I just think that the topic is fascinating. I think a lot of conservatives are still grappling with it, but it's stories like this where, and I think, we like to think that we have an impact in the community, our little show, that maybe, if we talk about butterfly zones, close to the
city will take action.
The city will take action, and I think here it's for me it's fascinating that a couple of really dedicated journalists, and this has happened time and time again, have said something wrong is going on here, and they've taken it upon themselves to independently investigate, and then the government's gotten involved and said, hey, maybe there's something to this, and it's actually ended up a change has come about, and I think that we try to encourage people, if you see a wrong, get involved, do something. And so I like to see stories like this where there's kind of a happy ending. It took a while to get there, but.
And that Innocence Project, by the way, that's usually it's like law students, very young attorneys. They're not really making money on this stuff. And I've wondered turns out it has the potential to be a really good story, but I'm wondering how many cases do they take? And we always hear about the successes. The Innocence Project got involved, but I wonder, have they ever gotten really deep into a case? And nope, the guy really did it.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and I was just curious about that because of the work they do, and they do it for very, very little money. Coming up, want to open up the fridge? See what
we got some stuff in leftovers for
Here's a big old serving of leftovers. Enjoy.
All right, leftovers here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Marsh, do you, I forget to ask you sometimes. Hannah usually has some stuff for leftovers. Hannah, you got anything for leftovers this morning?
I don't think so.
No? Did we get everything? Steph?
We didn't, I don't think.
We didn't? Marsh? Anything for leftovers that we didn't get to? No? All right. Well, then tell Gary he can go ahead and come in and start his show now. We're done. We got everything on the show that we needed to do today. Okay, a couple of things I actually didn't get to this. Blair, we got to give kudos to Blair Oaks. I think, John, Blair Oaks Elementary last week, they were one of your winners of the week. Yeah, and I picked him as one of my winners of the week, too, because you had, and I can't remember if it was the school board president, maybe it was the superintendent, I think it was the school board president saying, wait a minute, what the hell are we doing here? Why have we devoted so much time and energy to talk about this BS transgender stuff in the schools? Let's focus on the 3 R's. Arithmetic, writing, and reading. And now they've been awarded. They were named a 2022 National Blue Ribbon Schools Awardee, U.S. Secretary of Education. They were one of only 300 schools nationwide that picked up this honor. The school principal, Tara Bishop, was chatting with KRCG.
The best part of my job actually is morning duty, getting them out of the cars every day just to see their smiling faces and happy to be here.
I love that. Best part of my day, the kids. And it made me think, and I don't want to go sour here, but a lot of people, for example, like the best part. So, for example, best part of my day is coming in and doing Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I love this, you know? And then what happens at 9 o'clock when Gary Nolan's show comes in? Then it's like, yeah, now the unfun stuff of the job. And I bet I'm wondering, is that what it's like for the principal at Blair Oaks? I doubt it. I'm sure she loves everything about what she does. But, you know, we have those fun parts of her job. And then, you know, the responsibility parts.
That's true.
We got to do. What do you got for leftover, Steph?
Well, we need to mention the car thefts. Apparently, Columbia's had a bunch of car thefts. And I actually saw a post on the Ashland Police Department that a bunch of folks, 2 nights ago in Ashland, had their cars broken into. So just a reminder to lock your cars up if they are not in your garage.
You go up and down Grindstone in Columbia, and they've got electronic reader boards. Lock your cars, keep your stuff up. Somebody had, I don't know if it was a car that was stolen or had stuff stolen from a car, chatting with Channel 8. You tell this dude's just frustrated.
Even if you're going to the gas station, I don't think they really care. They're going to steal it if they want it. And so, I mean, the best thing you can do is just lock your vehicle and take the keys out.
Take your keys out.
Yeah, there's that. Because some people apparently still just unlock keys in the seats and they think nothing of it. And there's that, too. Irresponsible gun owners leave guns in them. How many times local law enforcement said, please, don't leave your gun in your car when your car is unlocked, because irresponsible gun owners give responsible gun owners. Man, you ruin it. You're right, John. It happens a lot. I remember one time I had an old 79 Jeep CJ7, soft top, and doors didn't lock. This thing was just, it was an old beat up Jeep. It was used the way God intended Jeeps to be used. And somebody went, and I had like a $30 Craco stereo that I got from a Kmart, not even a Walmart. It was Kmart, John. Low budget, man. And somebody got in my Jeep and stole this $30 car stereo. And I remember walking out to my car that morning and going, really? Like, I laughed.
I know.
It was just like,
when people when people tell me, like, yeah, you told people you were going to be out of town. I'm like, do you want my 10-year-old big screen TV? Because you can have it. I don't have much. Yeah. But a $30 stereo, I had a friend who got their car broken into, took all their debit cards, everything, and the only thing they swiped for was a Jimmy John sandwich. He was like, at least if you're going to take all my stuff and I'm going to have to spend the day, getting all new cards, get yourself something good, right? Like, not that a Jimmy John sandwich is good, but buy yourself a computer or something.
But I do remember, so I'm laughing And I'm thinking, well, I got to get to work here because I was doing lawn maintenance while I was working my way through Southeast Missouri State University, laughing and then going, man, somebody was in my stuff. And that kind of bothered me a little bit,
Yeah, it does. But I'm not surprised. I mean, given the squeeze of inflation and the press on folks, when folks start getting desperate and they get backed into a corner, they make poor choices. And here, the economy is backing people into corners. And I think that, we are going to see a rise in crime because people will feel like they have no other choices.
How bad gas prices are. A couple of weeks ago, we brought you the story, like especially in other parts of Missouri, people are stealing cars that have great fuel economy. The thieves are stealing the cars.
I'm safe. You're safe.
Yeah. They're stealing hybrids and great. All right. Coming up, Gary Nolan Show is here just minutes from now on News Radio 104.5 KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle. See ya.
Bye.